Disclaimer, disclaimer, disclaimer. What we know of the world has changed very little over the ages. Before we ventured into the sciences as a species, we humans were as sure of the world we live in today as we are today. We knew that the sun goes up, the sun goes down. Tide goes in, tide goes out. Never a miscommunication. And for hundreds of thousands of years, human knowledge about such things changed very little from this. We knew that the sun was warm, the night was dark. And in the night, the stars moved across the night sky with deliberate ease. We knew the seasons, the phases of the moon, the migration of animals, and how to make tools from bone, from stone, and how some stones, when struck together, could create sparks sufficient to make fire. We survived this way, grew in numbers, and traveled far with a thorough enough understanding of our environment to do so. At some point in history, a word was uttered that had no previous definition. The word, most likely first spoken by a child, caused brows to furrow and heads to be scratched. Those who repeated the word were sometimes thought to be mad for doing so, for it was a word so powerful that it challenged beliefs held for millennia, altered the behavior of entire societies, and ultimately became the one word responsible for all of science and therefore all of modern society. Of all the words the world has whispered, which word did all of this? Why was the word that brought wisdom to the world? And we have asked why so many times over the course of our history now that we now have answers to the questions that once went unasked by our ancient ancestors, and answers to questions they never could have imagined existed. But we are not yet done. In fact, we have just begun. More words to the wise ahead on This Week in Science, coming up next.
I've got the kind of mind that can't get enough. I want to learn everything. I want to fill it all up with new discoveries that happen every day of the week. There's only one place to go to find the knowledge I seek. I want to know what's happening. What's happening? What's happening this week in science? What's happening? What's happening? What's happening this week in science?
Good science to you, Kirsten.
Good science to you too, Justin. Oh, we're back again another week and more amazing science to talk about.
And Blair's back again as well, correct?
Yes, I am.
Hey, Blair.
I'll let her speak for
Hi.
herself. Blair, the intern, who does the Animal Corner. Blair's Animal Corner.
As always.
Yeah, as always. It's great. It's great. We love it. More animals, more science about animals so we can learn about animals. You know.
Animals too. She could do human stories too. We're just animals. There's no difference.
The people animals.
Yeah.
All right. So we've got Blair's Animal Corner on the show today. Additionally, I brought stories about, some mundane newsy bits that have been going around the science and politics circles. We like to follow that kind of stuff. So we'll talk about that. Additionally, first cells on Earth. Where did they start? How did they start? Where did this happen? And a lot of things going boom. What'd you bring, Justin?
I have got plants doing it in ways that we didn't think they could do it. Drunk flies, hidden life forms discovered on planet Earth, actually under planet Earth. And another story, which I think is going to be the biggest story of some time. It's going to be huge. It's Mother of Pearl answering questions about Mother Earth.
Interesting. I look forward to hearing that story. You're not teasing that for next week. That's for this week today.
No,
right?
that's for this week. Yeah. I was in the pre-show teasing that it would be a teaser for next week at the beginning of this show, but that would be ridiculous.
We'll get to it. All right. Off the top, how about some news tracking? Some big things that happened this week. Interesting document leakage from the Heartland Institute. We talk about the Heartland Institute a lot on this show with respect to climate science. And the Heartland Institute is very well known for being on the counter side to the accepted views of the IPCC. In fact, instead of having an organization called the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, which is the official global organization of scientists and government officials representing different countries to talk about climate change because it is a global effect. They have an organization called the NIPCC, which means the Non-Governmental and International Panel on Climate Change. So they're into confusing things a little bit. Anyway, they come out with documents all the time. They fund studies that undermine climate science, or at least that's what they seem to be doing regularly. Documents were leaked this last week, opening up a lot of questions about where the Heartland is getting its money, where the Heartland Institute's money is going and how it's being used. And then additionally, the plans that the Heartland Institute has for its activities during the coming year. It turns out...
Can I guess? Can I guess before hearing it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Can I guess that it's through a foundation that's either directly supported... they're either directly supported by the Koch Family Foundation or by the organization... another organization that is funded by the Koch Family Foundation.
The Koch brothers?
The Koch brothers. Yeah, they have the Koch Family Foundation is the one that actually puts the money out there. But
Yeah. They are some of the donors, absolutely, as well as companies like Time Warner Cable, AT&T, Microsoft, GM, and a lot of pharmaceutical companies additionally. So also insurance companies are on the list of donors. So all of these companies that had been private donors, didn't think that their names were going to get out to the public, or, maybe they cared, maybe they didn't, but now their names are out. And a lot of these companies are starting to try to distance themselves from the activity of the Heartland Institute and to downplay the importance of their donations. The interesting thing about where the money goes for the Heartland Institute, the money, as much as $5,000 a month, goes to Fred Singer, who's a former scientist who writes editorials and submits them to newspapers that contest the scientific consensus. Additionally, Craig Idzo, who used to work with the coal lobby, helps manage the NIPCC, is getting $11,600 a month for his role. And according to a document that is contested by the Heartland Institute has come out since the documents were leaked and said that some of them are accurate, which includes the donor list, but they are saying that a certain strategy document is not, that it is fraudulent, and that the information in it should not be listened to. But anyway, this so-called fraudulent document lists a one David Wojtek, an engineer with a PhD in the philosophy of science, who's going to be funded to the tune of around $100,000 to address the absence of educational material suitable for K-12 students on global warming that isn't alarmist or overtly political. He'll produce a set of modules that explicitly borrows the Teach the Controversy strategy, with each module dedicated to terming different aspects of climate change controversial. So that's just one aspect of it. Some of the documents have to do with where fundraising activities, things that the Heartland Institute wish they could do to get money. Strategic details, though, pretty much implicate this nonprofit organization with a strategy that is overtly anti-climate science.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, we'll see where this goes in the future.
And once again, we have all of science on one side of the balance beam and a big bag of money on the other. This is and we're still debating. Can we not just say that all of science is behind the climate and the global change thing happening, that human contributions are largely responsible for this. Is that not enough? For who's left to convince? Who's left to convince of this? They're not sharing the big bag of money with you for siding with them, for believing in this. Okay? They're not. There's nothing. They're not going to get a piece of that.
Yeah. Additionally, in other news, you reported last week, Justin, about the boycott on Elsevier journals. And in the meantime, since last week, there's a website called thecostofknowledge.com where academics are adding their names to this boycott list. And the list is now up to 6,268 people, as opposed to, I don't know, but 6,268 people. The objections that they list are exorbitantly high prices for subscriptions to individual journals. In the light of these high prices, the only realistic option for many libraries is to agree to buy very large bundles, which will include many journals that those libraries do not actually want. Elsevier thus makes huge profits by exploiting the fact that some of their journals are essential. Third, they support measures such as SOPA, PIPA, and the Research Works Act that aim to restrict the free exchange of information. On top of that, there is a new bill that is called the Federal Research Public Access Act that's being introduced in both the House and the Senate by a bipartisan group of politicians that would shorten the waiting period between publication in a subscription journal and the point where a paper is made open access. Currently, it's a year, and I believe they're going to try and make it like 6 months or something less. So this is an opposite attempt to the Research Works Act. So we will see
very important.
where this all goes.
Very important, because this is this research, by and large, if not just about every piece of it that's being, that people who are signing this ban, the money to create this research is your money. It's taxpayer money. This is our information that we paid for, that our scientists have produced.
Some of it is. Some of it is. I mean, a lot of it is, but not all of it is. There's a large amount of research that is funded by private organizations that are, it's not taxpayer money. But the publications don't treat they treat all the research that they publish the same. They don't mete out.
Yeah, and the fact that some of this is perhaps also corporate, that corporate scientists that go in and create research for their products and everything that show up in these, they also are probably opposed to this, because if you do create a system where anybody can publish their research freely, it's going to open them up to a different, perhaps, peer review system than they go through working with Elsevier's marketing front.
Yeah. Just a final point that I thought was kind of interesting. I was looking at the Cost of Knowledge stand and the whole bundling of journals by the publishers. It reminds me a lot of like cable companies and how cable companies bundle channels. And so you end up with the channels you don't want to watch just so you can get something like the Science Channel that you want.
Exactly. Isn't that the most annoying thing? Like the Science Channel's always down that list with like all the junk TV that you would never watch, just because that one Science Channel's in there. It's like, I'd really like to see that, but I have to buy all this other junk just to get there.
I know. And so I just wonder if publishing freedom of information, where will it trickle down to? But that's not a scientific issue. So anyway, Justin, let's talk about more science. What do you have out there?
Okay, let me let's go right to the big one. Knacker news. Which is also known as, this is the word I had to look up earlier, knacker. I didn't know what that word was. It's mother of pearl. Knacker. Okay, so it's the stuff that makes up pearls, and it's also the stuff that is the layers on the inside of the shell of a lot of mollusk species. Knacker is what we use then to do, like, make jewelry out of. People put it in the inlays of furniture. They make beads out of it. They do all kinds of things because it has that sort of oily, lustrous, iridescent quality to it. Scientists have now actually defined the fine points of its inner architecture, and they've developed some really neat models to determine how they're formed. They were first looking at just why it's so durable. It's 3,000 times more fracture resistant than the minerals that go into making it in the first place. So it has a very unique structure to it. What they discovered, though, was that there's a correlation between the way that it's the deposit, the inner the layers, the way the layers are formed on the outside, the thickness of the layers of this nacre as it's formed, and water temperature. And they've also discovered that the inner structure, when you look closely, you can see at what depth in the ocean it was based on that structure, because those two different parameters go into making up what the ultimate final nacre is looking like. So what this means, though, is aside from having done a couple studies where they've confirmed that at this depth, you get this sort of inner structure. If the water temperature is this, you get this kind of layers. They can actually go back now and look at nacre that was formed as far as 450 million years ago.
Wow.
And be able to tell what depth in the ocean it was formed and at what temperature that ocean was at the time. Amazing, right? So this is now a thermometer, right, that we can use to go back in time 450 million years. Previous, we've been able to go back that far and tell what carbons were in the atmosphere based on the calcium carbonates on coral reef structures. We've been able to sort of determine what the environment was like just by where plant life was living. If we didn't have an ice cap, we had trees growing. We had an almost tropical environment at one of the poles. We kind of could tell what the climate was for a multi-million age era. This is going to be an incredibly accurate thermometer going backwards in time. This is let's see, where was this coming from? This was what I was reading from is going to be reported in the Journal of American Chemistry Society. It was scientists from the University of Wisconsin-Madison that were producing this study.
So at this point in time, it's a proof of concept, and they're showing that it can go back that far and that there is accuracy to it, but they haven't actually. It hasn't been used at this point to start actually recreating any environmental temperature changes over the
Correct.
ages.
This is a proof of a concept, or it was something they discovered sort of along the way that there was this correlation, and then went back and studied it in more detail. And so now the next step is to start collecting from deposit areas where we know how far back these deposits of nacre are, and correlating that with its temperature, with its structure based on what these researchers have discovered, and see what kind of a picture we get of the environment going backwards. Very fascinating study. It's going to add this is an absolute treasure trove of pearly goodness that's going to add a lot of data to the global temperatures going backwards in history.
Well, I'm just trying. It probably is a lot more. It's something that's a lot more widespread around the globe than ice. So we take ice cores to be able to get measures of carbon dioxide, to be able to get indirect measures of temperature going back 200,000 years.
Yeah, not that far in comparison, right?
Yeah. So in terms of currently using it, satellites we only have going back like 30 years, 40 years, right?
A little more than that, but yeah, really, the real studies that we started doing on climate really began, and pretty quickly at first in the 60s, right? Mm-hmm. Didn't really get to the point where we're looking at tons of data to the mid 90s, and then. But that's just current temperature stuff. Which all the temperature stuff we've been discovering is proof of a concept because we understood how the greenhouse gas system worked previous to actually going back and finding temperature change information. But it does the two things. One is the temperature, but the other one is the pressure, because the pressure under which these are formed is defined in the structure, the inner structure of the nacre. So that can tell you at what depth the ocean was, because these are forming on the ocean floor. You know what the ocean depth is going to be in that area. You can tell ocean levels to some degree, right?
Right.
Really awesome. I think this is going to be really fascinating going forward. This is going to be, if you're at university and you wanted to work with climate, or maybe you're a marine biologist, wanted to do something cool, this might be a way to find yourself a nice, nifty career, because there's going to be a lot of papers published in this arena.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of data to go through, collections being made globally, trying to figure out. We just take samples around the globe, go back in time all around the world, and build a picture of the environment, temperature, ocean levels, going back how far? 450
million years. So we can pretty much do this.
Years? Yeah,
we can pretty much do this in correlation with the carbon accumulation in the coral samples too. So we can have not only temperature, ocean level, although I don't know how distinct that will be, other than perhaps some regions, be different. But yeah, along with carbon's the atmosphere, along with temperature, together back in time. That's going to be a really awesome consolidation of those it's really going to give us a very clear picture of the history. Not that it will change any minds, because this still won't have the giant pile of money on its side to communicate the idea, right? But
in terms of science, for science's sake, to give us a clear picture of the history of our planet, the little blue dot that we call home, this is a wonderful way to do that.
Yeah.
Just a multitude of really fascinating data points are going to come out of this. A great discovery. You know what time it is?
Is it time for Blair's Animal Corner?
It's time for Blair's Animal Corner. That's right. And if you just tuned in, you are listening to This Week in Science. So Blair, what do you have for us this week?
I have predator-prey relationships between Asian honeybees and bee-eating hornets. So I didn't even know there were bee-eating hornets, but in Asia, apparently there are.
It's because bees are so sweet.
It's a bee world out there.
And so what they found was that these honeybees will shake their abdomens and warn the hornets that they see them when they're coming. So that's their way of saying, I see you. Don't come any closer.
I see you coming. They do a belly dance to warn off the predators.
Right. Yeah.
It's a little strange,
but
whatever works, I guess.
So it makes sense in the animal world when this kind of thing happens, because both sides kind of benefit from it, because the honeybees can kind of send the hornet away and they don't have to fight the hornet. And then the hornet doesn't get ambushed and die.
Right.
So they both benefit from just going, okay, you saw me. Okay, all right, I'll back off. I'll leave. So the way they found out that they were actually speaking to the hornet with their little dance was that they took hornets and they put them in a room with these bees. And they would notice that when they shook their abdomens, if the hornet continued to get closer, they would shake it more and more vigorously until eventually the hornet would leave. And so then they put the hornets on a little tether and they brought the hornet closer and closer and closer. And eventually, if the hornet does get close enough, the bees will be able to back up their threat, I suppose, by basically mobbing the hornet. They'll have up to 500 bees on this one hornet and they'll suffocate the hornet.
Whoa.
So they don't just fight the hornet, they squish him.
Were hornets harmed in the production of this research?
I would venture to say, since they're hornets, they probably were.
Yeah.
It seems like insects are pretty expendable in a lot of scientific research. But anyway.
Yeah.
Then they took butterflies that have
mob scene. Wow.
They have really similar markings to the hornets. They took these butterflies and they brought them closer and closer. The bees didn't even move. They didn't respond at all.
So it's not just the markings they're responding to, it's something else.
Well, yeah, it's some way that they're identifying the exact species of hornet that might eat them. So it indicates that they probably evolved to these different behaviors with each other. They call it an evolutionary arms race.
Right.
Which happens in a lot of species with predator-prey relationships. But I thought that was really funny that...
What is the classic one, I think, in biology classes is the lynx hare relationship, where it's the lynx populations and
Right.
the snow hare.
Right.
Anyway.
Yeah. And then there's other animals that, you know, they have escalating behaviors that before they will attack. Like my favorite example is the skunk. They have their spraying, but they don't actually do that. They do a bunch of different things first. They'll actually stamp on the ground and jump up and down, and then they'll turn around and point their butt at you all before they will actually spray. And that's so they don't have to use that energy unnecessarily. They can just kind of scare things off without actually doing it.
Right.
That would scare me. That would definitely work. If a skunk was stamping around and then pointing its back end at me, I wouldn't. It's like, what's going to happen? No, you wouldn't dare. No, you wouldn't. Nuh-uh. No, you are not about to. I would not wake me around saying that. Oh, you did.
Fortunately, my dog hasn't learned that lesson after about 5 times, but she's special.
Some animals don't like to learn things like that. They think they can change behaviors. Lesson for relationships. Sometimes you can't change a skunk's stripes.
No.
Mm-mm. I just got a funny look. Sorry. From the back of the room. So we've got the honeybees and these bee-eating hornets, and they've evolved together. So if you were to get these bees together with hornets that are still bee eaters, but they didn't evolve with, like a different species, then they probably would not have the same mobbing behavior towards them.
Probably. So one thing I did read was that they took American honeybees and they had those, but then they had the bee-eating hornets.
Okay.
And the American honeybees, since we don't have bee-eating hornets here, they had no response at all.
Okay.
So I don't know about the other way, but they did it in that direction. And in Asia, what they've noticed now is that the bee-eating hornets, if you observe them, they get most of their bees for food from when they're separate and they're flying. They'll actually catch them in flight, which is something that's very energy expensive, but it beats landing on a hive and getting eaten or suffocated, rather. Yeah.
Wow. I wonder if the bees will start doing air mobbing behavior, because you see that in birds where you have hawks that will catch small birds in flight. They will fly in if they see a bird that they think they can catch. They will just grab it out of the air if it's the right size.
Right.
But you also have mobbing behavior in birds like crows and even smaller songbirds that will group up together to mob the hawks that are in the area. Just basically get them out and say, we know you're here. We're going to peck at you and fly at you until you go away.
Yeah, that whole hive mentality thing is very interesting too, because you can see that there's probably a couple honeybees that are getting crushed in the middle of that 500 bee pile, but they're sacrificing for the greater good of the hive, right? And I learned at college one really cool thing about, I forget which kind of bee it was, but they will mob in the sky and they'll fly around each other to try to create heat in the center if they're in a cold area. Yeah. And then it's hot in the center and it's cold outside, and they'll take turns and they'll actually create almost a
don't penguins do that too?
Yeah, penguins do that too.
Yeah. It's really interesting.
And the colder individuals will eventually move inside and the hotter individuals move out. And Interesting. Yeah. Thank you very much. The corner of the animals.
Bees.
Blair's Animal Corner.
Ooh.
Dun, dun, dun.
I get a song.
You get your own theme song sung by Justin Jackson.
I'll bring my saxophone next time.
There we go.
That's right.
We'll do some crooning.
That's right. Well, I think it's about time that we take a short break. We've made it through the first half of the show, and hopefully we will make it through the second. Stay tuned for more on This Week in Science.
goggles and go looking for the things I couldn't see.
Twis would like to thank Audible.com for sponsoring this episode of This Week in Science. Audible.com is the leading provider of audiobooks with over 75,000 different titles in a variety of genres, including science. Lots of science, actually. Twis has found all sorts of science-based books in the Audible library, and we know that you can too. Lots of science books for you to enjoy. And if you want to go check it out, go take a look at their library and maybe download an audiobook, you can do that. You can get a free trial and download any audiobook download for free. All you have to do is sign up at audiblepodcast.com/twis. That's right. Go to audiblepodcast.com/twis right now for your free download. Also, you can read along with the Twis Book Club this month. It's February, and we are reading Planet of Viruses. A Planet of Viruses. That's right. It's a love story. Well, maybe not. Maybe it's more like an evolutionary tale. Written by Carl Zimmer, a science writer, long time for the New York Times, and additionally a blogger on The Loom is the name of his blog. This book is available through Amazon.com or at a bookstore near you. I hope that you join in and read along. Twis also has merchandise that you might enjoy. That's right. You want a Twis t-shirt? How about a World Robot Domination t-shirt? What? That's right. You can get one of those. World Robot Domination green t-shirt for you. You can have that if you head over to twist.org. Also, you can purchase our 2010 Science Music Compilation CD. Yes, I said CD, and I also said 2010. It's not mistakes. But you can get it now at our website, twist.org. Twist is also supported by listeners like you, and your donations pay for our hosting, our bandwidth, contractors we need to hire, and fun things that we'd like to do for the show. And we appreciate any amount that you can give us, $2 to $2 million, whatever you're able to give, we do appreciate. You make this show possible. We accept donations through every episode page on our website, twist.org. We've made the process really easy by putting PayPal donation buttons on each page. So go to twist.org, listen to the most recent episode, and comment on the show if you like, and hit one of those donation buttons. Make a donation. We thank you for your support. We really couldn't do it without you.
Answers lie somewhere within this scattered plot. Our first assumptions were correct. Disprove the rest. It's hard. The methods of hypothesis and patience are the only things I need. Put on a pair of goggles and go looking for the things I couldn't see.
And we're back with more This Week in Science.
That's right. Hey, I have a story about things that go boom. Can I talk about things that go boom?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Light it
Okay.
up.
Okay, so have you ever wondered why pig manure pits occasionally explode?
Huh?
Well, some
I
scientists.
didn't know that.
Yeah, occasionally.
Maybe I would wonder if I guess if it was happening around me, I'd be pretty curious. But I
right?
didn't know that took place.
Why are these manure pits exploding around me? It's a good question. It's it's one of those things that scientists wonder about. And so researchers have been looking at these pig farming manure pits in the Midwest. It's an important question, not only because the explosions themselves are happening, but the explosions happen and actually kill lots of animals in the process. So there's a lot of money riding on figuring out how to stop it, what causes it, and how to stop it. So they're finding these manure pits have started foaming. The pigs are pooing in them. They are doing their business, and people, you can blame hydrogen sulfide, the sulfides, for making it smell stinky. But there's also a gas, methane, that is the byproduct of the activity of bacteria that live in these pits. And there are more and more little bubbles that are foaming, causing this foam in these manure pits as a result of they're finding a diet heavy in DDGS. It's called distillers dried grains with solubles. And what does that actually mean? Leftover mash from making alcohol, right? From making ethanol out of corn. So this dried leftover mash is then fed to the pigs, and it is leading to an increase in the bacteria, the microbial community in these manure pits. And so there's a massive amount of methane that's being released. This foam is increasing, lots of methane. And so any kind of spark can lead to a massive explosion. So scientists have found, it's pretty exciting. Alcohol.
The answer to the exploding piles of pig poo.
That's right. The answer to the question. If you wanted to know why, this is why. Also, some researchers are, in other explosive news, researchers are looking at the explosive properties of dust. And a group out of the University of Halifax in Canada and in, Dalhousie University in Halifax and Canada and Norway, looking at nanoparticles, non-traditional dust particles, so nanoparticles, and how they lead to changes in explosiveness. They surveyed research on blowing up nanoparticles and flocculent materials and hybrid dust mixtures. Flocculent materials are like, clothing fibers, anything that's fluffy and synthetic. And the hybrid dust mixtures are what we know of as normal dust, but that can be mixed with liquids or gases or other stuff. So dust is pretty small, less than 420 microns in diameter. Nanoscale is even smaller. And we find that it's not well studied yet, but we know that dust from explosions of flour and grain silos, we know that dust itself, because of the surface area of the particles, if it can get aerosolized, basically lifted into the air, and any kind of sparks, say originating in static or other sources, can cause massive explosive explosions to occur. And so they're finding that agglomerations of nanoparticles, nanopowders, can ignite with just 1 millijoule of energy, which can ignite with a spark, collision, or mere friction. And because they can remain suspended for a really long period of time, because they're really small and can create these pretty large conglomerations of powder, nanoparticles they could cause some pretty big explosions. And they could be a problem. That's what people are saying. Flocculent dust, synthetic materials, stuff that rubs off your couch, your pants, whatever. They are often manufactured using electrostatics. They could ignite, and hybrid mixtures, they say, are really variable because they're hybrid and can be mixed with all sorts of stuff. So the researchers say that more study is needed. They need to blow more stuff up. This paper was in the Industrial and Engineering Chemistry Research Journal.
Scientists want to blow things up? I'm very surprised.
Yes, this is from Pop Sci magazine, but it's fascinating that
nanoparticles are going to be, we're going to be talking about these things increasingly, I think, as years go on. Cornell research has just warned that they may be more harmful than we previously thought. They're looking at the nanoparticles that they're entering into our food and vitamins that are being engineered to do this, that, or the other in food, pharmaceuticals, lots of stuff. These are showing up. And initially on gross and large, they were found not to be causing any sort of deleterious effects. But this research collaboration was led by Michael Schuler, a professor of chemical engineering and chair of biomedical engineering at Cornell University. He studied how large doses of polystyrene nanoparticles, a FDA-approved substance that is found in everything from food additives to vitamins, affected how well chickens absorbed iron, which is kind of important to cells to be able to absorb iron.
Yeah.
This actually was already reported online in the journal Nature Nanotechnology. According to the study, high-intensity short-term exposure to the particles initially blocked iron absorption, whereas longer-term exposure caused intestinal cell structures to change, allowing for a compensating uptick in iron absorption. So our bodies are amazing. They actually overcame the initial blockages. Researchers tested both acute and chronic nanoparticle exposure during human gut cells, using human gut cells in petri dishes as well as live chickens, and reported matching results. They chose chickens because these animals absorb iron into their bodies in a similar way that humans do, and they are similarly sensitive to micronutrient deficiencies. So this may be something that is on the horizon that people are talking about wanting to, have labeled or have removed. Who knows? But this is just one such study. But it's going to lead to more studies. Hey, there is a
Yeah.
So, and on top of that, they may make us explode, as we have learned. We may become highly explosive.
Yeah,
having this.
I remember a few years back, there was another study that came out about nanoparticles causing lung damage. And there was a question about how different particles might cause damage to the lungs and cause the lungs to react in a really negative way for the person. And they said that rod-shaped nanoparticles were the most dangerous because the cells were not able to keep them out, and they somehow burrowed into the cells of the lungs more easily than than nanoparticles of other shapes. And so there's possibly something there as well to do with the shape of the particles, not just the size of the particle, but what they look like, how they're shaped.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I got another one ready to go.
You do?
Infected fruit flies found favoring fermented fruit. Binging on booze to fend off blood-borne infestation. This is fruit flies infected with blood-borne parasites found to be consuming alcohol to rid themselves of the parasite, using alcohol as a medicine, as a cure-all.
Mm-hmm.
This was a study at Emory University. So this is kind of an interesting. Todd Shalenke is the evolutionary geneticist who led this research. So fruit flies, they lay their larvae in rotten things, fungi and bacteria that's growing on overripening fruit. Fermenting fruit feeds the larvae as they're getting ready to become flies. And according to Shalenke, he says that they're essentially living in booze. The amount of alcohol in their natural habitat can range from 5 to 15%. Imagine if everything that you ate and drank all day long was 5% alcohol. We wouldn't be able to live like that, says Shalenke. But fruit flies are really good at detoxifying the alcohol.
We need to learn how to do that. We need to learn how the fruit flies detoxify the alcohol and create a pill.
Why would we have to? Then we'd have to drink more. Well, actually, they are going to look at this, though. later on here, they talk about they're going to try to look at whether or not there is a potential for human beings to use too much alcohol to fend off bloodborne infection or parasites. So they're going to look at if that's possible in the future here. But this was specifically, they were looking at.
So maybe there's an evolutionary function to alcoholism.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. There has to be. Otherwise, why would we have picked it up so readily? I mean, it's kind of everywhere.
Interesting.
It goes back. The history of alcohol is longer than the history of most religions, right? Or of any religion. I don't think there is a religion that was outlasted alcohol, right? Alcohol has been here since before we had any of our major religions. I think it's probably close.
Yeah. Those berries.
So then they looked at endoparasitoid wasps, the major threat to the fruit flies. The wasps, these are, talk about that, evolutionary arms race. These wasps create their next brood by injecting their eggs inside of fruit fly larvae, along with a venom that specifically suppresses the larvae's immune responses to allow their eggs to grow. If the venom is effective enough, the wasp egg hatches. The wasp larvae then eat the fruit fly larva from within. Eventually, the adult wasp emerges, much to the surprise of the fruit fly parents. So some fruit flies, however, can overcome the wasp's venom and mount an immune response against even the wasp eggs. The blood cells and the fly larvae swarm over the wasp's eggs and release nasty chemicals to kill them. So they allowing the fruit fly then larva to grow into adulthood. So this is a constant coevolutionary battle that's going on between immune systems of the flies and the venoms of the wasps, says Schlenke. Any new mechanism of defense that protects flies from wasps will tend to spread through fly populations by natural selection. So he wondered if fruit flies could be tapping the toxic effects of alcohol in their natural habitat to somehow fight off the wasps. So to test the theory, they used a basically like a petri dish that was filled with yeast that fruit flies are normally fed in the lab environment. On one side, the dish was mixed with a 6% alcohol solution, and the other side, there was no alcohol at all. And researchers then released fruit fly larvae into the dish, allowing them to freely move to the other side. After 24 hours, 80% of the fruit fly larvae that were infected with wasp eggs were on the alcohol side of the dish. And while only 30% of the non-infected fruit fly larvae were on the alcohol. Non-infected, the non-infected, only 30% went for the alcohol. Of the infected, 80% of them moved to the alcohol side. The strength of the result was surprising, Schlenke said. The infected fruit flies really do seem to purposely consume alcohol, and the alcohol consumption correlates to much higher survival rates. Infected fruit flies that consumed alcohol beat out the wasps in about 60% of the cases. When you compare to the survival rate of fruit fly controls that did not have alcohol in their diet, that was a 0% survival rate. So 60% survival while drinking. 0% survival. No chance. No way you're going to beat this if you haven't been boozing.
Better drink your way through it, son.
And it turns out the wasps just aren't as good as the flies at handling the alcohol. So Schlenke. So basically, the fly larvae are drinking the wasp eggs to death. This is what's taking place.
There's a sci-fi novel here somewhere. There's another fruit fly story this week. You ever wonder about freezing organisms and bringing them back to life, cryopreserving stuff? There are a lot of companies that people have paid a lot of money to in the case of their early demise, that their bodies could be frozen so that someday when a cure or a treatment for whatever caused their death is found, they can be reanimated and treated and be nice and healthy again. Well, it works for fruit flies, not for people yet. Yeah, but a group in the Czech Republic have been freezing fruit flies for a little while now. And in an original experiment, they took an Arctic fruit fly relative called Chimomyza costata. And this Arctic fruit fly can survive being frozen in liquid nitrogen. So liquid nitrogen is minus or negative 320 degrees Fahrenheit. Say that again, negative 320 degrees Fahrenheit. And they can survive being submerged in this negative 320 degree Fahrenheit liquid nitrogen. So how do they do it? This particular species accumulates an amino acid through their diet called L-proline. They accumulate it in their bodies. The amino acid somehow keeps them from freezing. And usually what causes death from freezing is that the water freezes. It causes cells to expand and burst. And so you have tissue damage that cannot be recovered from when thawing takes place. So these fruit flies, the amino acid somehow is maintaining the integrity of cells as freezing occurs. So now they've taken Drosophila melanogaster, the standard fruit fly in the lab. They fed the Drosophila L-proline and glycerol. And glycerol is often used to cryoprotect tissues when you're trying to preserve tissues. So they were fed glycerol and L-proline, and then they were chilled a little. They said, hey, chill. They took them down to 23 degrees Fahrenheit, minus 5 degrees Celsius, allowed them to freeze half of their body water, not entirely frozen. Excuse me. And they were frozen for 75 minutes before being warmed again. And then, according to the researchers, upon melting, these larvae were able to continue development, metamorphosed into adults, and produced viable offspring. Mwahaha. Yes. So freezy fruit flies are going to be the key to understanding cryogenic preservation, but also,
of course, if the flies have been drinking
organs for transplanting, drunk freezy.
If they've been drinking, maybe they're just not freezing all the way. Maybe there's 10% alcohol in there.
Alcohol slushy fruit flies. This does not sound like a good party cocktail. I don't know.
There's Schlenky up there on our web feed.
Schlenky on the web feed talking about his drunk fruit flies.
Yeah.
Drinky Schlenky fruit flies. We are coming up close to the end of the hour, so I just wanted to throw a couple of other stories out there. A question has been up there. Where did life first evolve on the planet? It's been a question as to whether or not it occurred in the oceans, whether or not it was mud, geothermal pools, which of, all of them have possible reasons that they would provide suitable habitats for the evolution of the first live cells. However, a group of scientists publishing in Proceedings of the National Academy of Scientists have said that, I'm quoting here, if the very first membranes were leaky for small molecules and ions, then the interior of the first cells should have been in equilibrium with their surroundings. By reconstructing the inorganic chemistry of the cytoplasm, it might be possible to reconstruct the habitats where the first cells should dwell. So they took a look at modern cells and found that most of them maintain a high ratio of potassium ions to sodium ions. And so they looked for places that would lead to potassium enrichment. And the only places that exist that are like that today are vapor-dominated geothermal systems. So they are places where water that gets really heated within the earth becomes steam, it reaches the surface, cools, condenses back to elementally enriched liquid pools. And according to this Scientific American article, condensed geothermal steam in these pools can have ratios of potassium to sodium as high as 75-1. And they're rich in many other elements of life that are that have been leached from rock. So they may have been the hatcheries for life. Kind of fun.
How familiar are you with lateral gene transfer?
Semi.
What is lateral gene transfer?
Horizontal gene transfer, lateral gene transfer.
So this is an event called lateral gene transfer. I guess it's when one species shares genes with another.
So in terms of bacteria, it's often thought that species of bacteria that exist in a similar environment, that they can swap genes. So basically, I've got this gene, you want that gene, and that there is sharing of genes that go horizontally between species. And it's been suggested that we might be swapping genes with bacteria constantly, that we might be swapping genes with viruses, that there may be...
might be a lot more to the exchange than we had initially thought.
Yeah.
They've just discovered basically what you're describing in plants. They've discovered some plants that are doing what they're calling lateral gene transfer. They think the process is, they're guessing at this point. They don't really know exactly how the genetic material is being transferred, but they think it's airborne pollens and grains landing on different species that will have some sort of ancestral linkage to the other plant, although they'll be separate species themselves. And then it then takes up those genes during fertilization and creates things that can even change how it's taking up resources. So this is they've discovered it in a couple types of grasses thus far, but we're pretty blown away to find the genes from one showing up in the genes of another. With just, I mean, and we're talking this isn't like a couple generations removed plants. This is distant ancestral kinship, is the way they put it in the paper. Evolutionary biologists, Brown University of Sheffield, have recently documented this. Still, how it happened is unclear, but they are saying, this could lead to some rapid evolutionary changes over time, and it makes. And if it's more possible than they thought, because they haven't seen this sort of gene transfer between different species of plants take place, where it can go in the next generation, just have some sort of piece or process of the other gene that it incorporates, that it could be taking place a lot more than previously thought. It wasn't previously thought. So it could be taking place like a lot, right? So it could change an important aspect of general plant evolution, because we've got natural selection, which has been the main driving force for quite some time. And then recently, sort of epigenetics has entered into it. We know that the plants can sort of maintain a memory of the growing season from the previous generations and pass that on. So if you grow a couple generations of plants in a very droughty condition, the generation that comes after will when they get water, will sprout quicker, try to grow faster, try to come to flower sooner, expecting a shorter wet season. But this adds a whole other dimension to the evolution of plants. If they can transfer genes from one plant species to another, say a plant has somehow arrived in a foreign area where the climate isn't like what it used to be, maybe it would completely benefit from taking on genes from the surrounding plants to better acclimatize itself. Really fascinating avenue may have just opened up in plant biology.
Plants are so amazing. One thing that I love about science is that we think we've got things figured out, and then we're like, oh wait, what about that thing? And so you start digging into it, and you realize that there's a whole lot more complexity to the picture than you previously imamed. I love that.
Yeah, it doesn't get boring. I think that's the thing too. It's just like okay, so this is the way the world is, and totally now we've learned everything. Okay, I can guess we can go home. What? There's a paper that says something else has just been discovered, something completely new, something that we didn't even think we would have reason to question. Awesome. Mm-hmm. Entire new avenue of science and research just opened up. Beautiful.
Yeah. The Swiss Space Center at École Polytechnique Fédérale de Lausanne, EPFL. Did I get that right? Did I get the right accent? My French is so rusty these days, has announced Clean Space One. And this is a project to clean up space debris because there's a lot of space debris up around our planet. You might not think it by looking up at night, but there's a lot of stuff that's floating around that could cause some significant damage to important missions that are, or satellites that are already up there or that are planned to launch. Anyway, they are
a penny, even something the size of a penny, traveling at 18,000 miles an hour or more, right? When it hits a space station or like an astronaut space, anything out there, just immediately puts a grapefruit-sized hole in it, right? It just goes right through it. So this is incredibly dangerous. All the material that we've accidentally been accumulating up there from satellites that are getting blown up in space or colliding or that sort of thing. It leaves a lot of debris so that in the future, if we've cluttered it up too much, it could just end like satellite and space traveling programs. Like it'd be too dangerous to put anything up there. So they've been looking for this solution for a while.
Yeah, people have been working, especially, now there are a lot of citizen science satellite ideas. A lot of people want to launch little things into outer space and have a personal satellite. So, we just need to clean things up and keep it clean up, tidy up there. A space janitor, so to speak. And so this group in Switzerland, they are planning. They're planning a satellite that launches Clean Space One. It would launch and eject at about 630 to 650 kilometers and approach objects at some 28,000 kilometers per hour, and then grab the object, stabilize whatever the object is, and then bring it back to Earth. And disintegration, grappling, and then disintegration, leading it, to burn up through the atmosphere. So there are a bunch of challenges ahead, but this is a really interesting idea that they're planning. So we'll see how far it goes, but they've put the idea out there. We will see. We will see if the Swiss, who can manage the money, can also clean up space.
Okay, well, I hope they do a better job than they did with the money. that ain't been working out too great lately.
Anyway, we are at the end of the show, and at the end of the show, I love to thank somebody for watching. So I'd love to thank Artyom for sending in this story about the Swiss satellite. David Eckert also sent some stories in, and Jess Mason. Thank you very much for your contributions to Twis this week.
Thank you, everyone, for listening. We hope you enjoyed the show. Twis is also available as a podcast. Just Google This Week in Science in the iTunes directory, or if you have an Android device, you can look for the Twis for Droid app in the Android marketplace. That's Twis, TWIS, the number 4, Droid in the Android marketplace, or just simply Twis in the iPhone marketplace.
Yeah, and for more information on anything that you've heard here today, show notes are going to be availavailable on our website, twist.org, thanks to our wonderful intern, Blair. Thank you. She's typing away madly as I speak. We also want to hear from you, so email us. I'm Kirsten at thisweekinscience.com, and the other guy on Skype is Justin at thisweekinscience.com.
If you send us an email, be sure to put Twis, TWIS, somewhere in the subject line, or your email will be spam filtered into oblivion. You can also contact us on Twitter at Dr. Kiki or at JacksonFly. We love your feedback. If there's a topic you would like us to cover or address, a suggestion for an interview, or an insider stock tip, please let us know.
Yeah, and a new Twis Twitter account that you can follow is Twis Science, This Week in Science, TWI Science on Twitter, where Blair is posting story updates to Twitter with links. And we will be back here next week, same time, same place. And we hope that you plan to join us once again for more great science news. And bring your friends. We like your friends.
And if you've learned anything from today's show, remember,
it's all in your head.
This week in science. This week in science. This week in science. This week in science, it's the end of the world. So I'm setting up shop, got my banner unfurled. It says the scientist is in, I'm gonna sell my advice. Show them how to stop the robots with a simple device. I'll reverse global warming with a wave of my hand. And all it'll cost you is a couple of grand. 'Cause this week's science is coming your way. So everybody listen to what I say. I use the scientific method for all that it's worth. And I'll broadcast my opinion all over the earth. 'Cause it's this week in science. This week in science. This week in science. 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 This week in science. This week in science. This week in science. 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 I've got one disclaimer and it shouldn't be news. That what I say may not represent your views, but I've done the calculations and I've got a plan. If you listen to the science, you may just yet understand that we're not trying to threaten your philosophy. We're just trying to save the world from jeopardy. 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 And this week in science is coming your way. So everybody listen to everything we say. And if you use our method instead of rolling a die, we may rid the world of toxoplasma gondii. Cause it's this week in science. This week in science. This week in science. 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 This week in science. This week in science. This week in science. 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 Got a laundry list of items I want to address. From stopping global hunger to dredging Loch Ness. I'm trying to promote more rational thought. And I'll try to answer any question you've got. So how can I ever see the changes I seek when I can only set up shop 1 hour a week? This week in science is coming your way. You better just listen to what we say. And if you've learned anything from the words that we've said, then please just remember it's all in your head. 'Cause it's this week in science. This week in science. This week in science. 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 This week in science. This week in science. This week in science. 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 This week in 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 science.
Bong. That's right. That's right. We finished another show, everybody. Yay. Did Justin disappear? Is he there? What's going on? Oh, he's back.
I've been here all along.
I don't believe you.
Been practicing my own invisibility cloak over here. Been working pretty good. So what's going on? Where's the chat room at?
The chat room. Where's
Shout
the chat?
out. What's up, chat room? How you doing, baby? There's not a lot of activity in there. What's going on? Are you there? Are you? Oh, there we are. Okay, there they are. Hey,
Here.
chat room.
What?
Hey,
Love
guys.
the chat room.
I had a love affair with the chat room.
They're so awesome. I think I don't know. I don't know for sure, but I would venture to guess, and we can maybe find out a way to study this in the future. But I would venture to guess that we have one of the most intelligent, best-looking chat rooms in all of web media.
Best looking by far.
Yeah. I think so. I think so. War. So funny. I'm glad everyone in the chat room is here. We dang sexy, says Identity4. That's right. Look at Brian's got the scrolling chat room.
We've got our chat scroll up. Oh, that's
Chat
awesome.
scroll. Mm-hmm.
Chat scroll. I heard you like chats, so I put chat in your chat.
Thanks. Little chat for your chat. Like some chat. Brian,
What?
we'll let you go. You should go home. The lighting's really. Where are you? What's different in there right now? How do you have that angled? The lighting is.
I just turned everything off because I have glow sticks.
Oh, the
Really?
late night party at TWiT's about to begin.
Pixel Core was doing some stuff here pretty late, so there's still quite a few people here right now.
Fish taco, fish taco, fish taco, fish taco.
Oh,
What's it? Boots and cats and boots and cats and boots and cats and boots and cats and fish taco, fish taco, fish taco, fish taco, boots and cats and
What's up,
boots and boots and cats.
I just had them. I go.
Have you
everywhere
seen
with
that?
glow sticks?
Have you seen that video, the boots and cats video?
No, is that on YouTube?
Yes, it's on. I think it's on YouTube.
Did you like that bee dance video I found?
That was
Yes.
really funny.
That was awesome.
So silly. I don't know what they're saying, but it's silly.
War has a good title for the show. Using Knacker to help us go backer.
Using Knacker to help us go backer. Nice. I like it. Yeah, it's
Or once you try Knacker, you keep going backer.
Boot.
What was the boot thing?
here. I'm gonna here.
Cat boot.
Boots and cats. Boot cat. Boot cat. Boots and cats and boots and cats.
What?
You have to play it.
All right, I think I found it. Let's see.
Now that we're having a rave, come on.
Let's see here.
I went to a festival. Was it the mountain air?
Cats boot. Cats boot. Knee high boots. Cats
What?
leather boots. Leather
Is
boots.
this?
Leather boots. Leather boots. Leather knee high.
Did you show Tony this?
No.
Oh, Tony would love this.
Leather boots. Leather boots. Leather knee high. Bee.
Oh, there are bees in it.
Bees.
Right, that's right.
Cats.
How long is this? Oh, God.
It's long, actually.
Bee. Boots another cat bee. Leather cat bee. Cat bean. Cat beef. Cat bee. Leather knee high cat beef. Bees.
Leather
beef,
cat bee.
Beef. Cat. Leather beef. Cat bee. Beef. Cats. Bees. Beef. Cat. Beef and boots and a beefy bison beef. Cats. Bees. Beef. Cat. Bees. Cats. Leather beef. Beef. Cats. Bees. Beef. Cat. Beef.
Wow.
Leather beef. Cat. Bee. Boots.
Wow.
Nice.
It's seriously one of the things in this world that makes me very happy.
I don't know how to feel about that.
Boots and cats and boots and cats and leather boots and leather boots, knee-high boots. Oh my gosh. Anyway, I was going to tell a story about glow sticks and a festival. I went to, is it the Mountain Air Festival or something? It takes place out in the Sierras. Maybe it's the High Sierra Festival. I don't remember, but it was years and years and years ago. And we camped out because you can camp on the property for however long and see all the musical acts. And so we camped out and some random person came by our camping area with glow sticks. And he's like doing something with this glow sticks. And he was on something. I don't know what he was on, but he was a funny person. And all of a sudden he starts dancing with the glow sticks and like shaking them all around. And he stops. He goes, see that? See that? Never been to a rave.
Amazing.
See that? Never been to a rave. So it's like,
they should put the warning label on this. You're not supposed to drink the glow stick juice.
No.
It does things to you. It's not good.
Unless you're a fruit fly.
never been to a rave.
Unless you're a fruit fly, in which case, yeah,
Drink
it can do
the
it.
glow stick you choose. If you're a fruit, just drink it. Drink it.
There was a video I found too on YouTube with the fruit fly beer stuff, but now I don't know where it went.
It's because you've been taken over by boots and cats.
Boots and cats, boots and cats, boots. Yeah, kind of.
I love fish taco. Fish taco. Fish taco.
That video you showed earlier on your Kiki show,
With the quadricopters.
that was crazy.
So awesome. Yeah.
I'm gonna do that real quick.
Yeah, we should see that.
A nano quadrotor capable of agile.
If anybody missed this, this is just absolutely too cool.
It starts out so simple. So simple.
Well, yeah, it's like you can throw it in the air and it'll fly. Woo! Right? That's pretty neat. Pretty cool. Pretty sweet, right?
Quadricopter.
But is that all it can do? 'Cause that's enough.
Multiple
That's pretty
vehicles can
cool.
Fly as a formation.
Yeah, when you start putting them together,
You start together. It's so cool.
What?
and then Skynet is controlling them.
I know, right? Oh,
It's like that Atari video game.
yeah.
We developed a method to transition between formations in 3D.
It's not over.
Yeah. No, it's gonna
Yeah.
get even more Skynetty here in a second.
It's not done
Yeah.
The team
Little
can
did we
also
know the
navigate
future
in
will
environments
actually
with
end in
obstacles.
Space Invaders.
yet. Let's go through this little opening. Look how we work so well together.
Oh my goodness, they're in military formation already.
Yeah.
This is the one that killed me, though. This is the one that.
And is awesome.
Whoa. Whoa. Look out. Look out. Oh.
K-Mel Robotics. Yeah.
Thanks for watching.
Oh my gosh.
I just want to put cameras on all of them and just have them follow me around.